This was not what I expected. Throughout the first 8 episodes of Digital Circus, people grew to love, theorize, and obsess over every minute detail given to us by the show. Gooseworks had the ending planned from the beginning, and that gave hope to the audience that something big was in the works. Will they finally leave the circus? Will they find out what the circus really is and how they got there? There have honestly probably been millions of theories up to this point, and now that the last episode is out, at least I am disappointed. I believe this show is at its best when we're dealing with 1 or 2 characters at a time, when we're able to feel exactly what they're feeling. The issue with episode 9, well, the biggest issue, is even with its inflated runtime of just over an hour, we don't really focus on anyone besides Jax, who, as we all now know, abstracted and never really got the chance to grow as a character. In earlier episodes, like with Gummigoo, Pomni is still adjusting to surviving in the circus and falls through the floor into a sort of limbo with Gummigoo. After talking, he realizes he's an artificial consciousness and bonds with Pomni over not choosing this life. Once given real motivation, he decides he wants to go and live out the rest of his time with the circus, leaving behind everything he once did know, albeit it wasn't a lot, just to get thrown back into the void with his mind wiped, leaving only Pomni to deal with the memory of what just happened. But this is what I expected from the finale. The whole series we've been playing with the idea of leaving the circus, going back to your original lives, yet after Kane is deleted and there's no more active threat, Kinger just decides to remember that we're all clones of consciousness. That's fine. I understand it's easier to think without so much stress on your mind. I guess I can also understand letting people walk away and deal with it on their own, but did they not decide as a group beforehand that they're not letting anyone go off alone, that they're all in this together so that no one else abstracts? Regardless, Kinger and Pomni start rebuilding the circus, shortly joined by Ragatha, Gangle, and Zubul. We then get a scene of Jax coming up to Pomni, attempting to let his guard down, but he fails and walks away. It just feels like these characters stopped being who they are in sake of the plot. In the last few episodes, Pomni was really the only one who cared about Jax anymore. Then, this episode, she just seemingly gives up caring. I mean, Pomni does have lines about how she should have pushed more with Jax, and how she semi-blames herself, but based off what we see, it doesn't look like she really pushed at all. It doesn't feel like the Pomni we knew from even an episode before, and I understand they got really devastating news, but at this point, the message of the show and what our characters experience is that sometimes you just have to keep on living. Like I mentioned earlier though, the biggest assassination of character was Jax. Not the nicest person in the circus, but obviously dealing with something deeper going on. We do get an answer this episode, and I've seen a lot of people saying it made them like him less, it made him a worse person, or that he got what he deserved, but I mainly disagree with that. He was a very flawed person, and what he did before entering the circus was wrong, and it's hard to rationalize, especially for himself, and what he has done once he entered the circus, opening up to someone about something he's so ashamed about, and then out of self-preservation avoiding, lying, and causing 2 other people to abstract because he can't accept what he's done. It's messed up, but you can see, especially when Pomni enters into his mind palace, that he regrets every decision he's made and then blames himself even more. That could all be a very complex and interesting character study and give sympathy to someone who didn't really seem to deserve it from the start, except he really had no redemption to make up for all this besides accepting that Pomni still cares about him after learning all this. So, cool. He never apologizes to Gangle, who also cries when essentially her circus abuser is gone. Like, it's still sad, but I feel like she would probably still feel some relief. He never actually got confronted about any of the mean, rude, and straight up just wrong things he's done. He never actually had to take responsibility, and then abstracts as basically a final FU to the circus, becoming yet another problem for them to deal with forever, by the way, and then everybody just ends up being sad about it. It really feels like episode 8 built up a lot of interesting ways the story could go, just for the finale to reverse most of what happened before. Kane got deleted, and this was the main setup for what's to come in the finale, just for him to be reborn and then come back without the evil in him. I understand there's symbolism to this, but it just kind of confuses the plot, and then he's also super understanding of the humans and empathetic just because he saw their Instagrams and realized they were real people. But he already knew that, so I guess it was just because of the evil in him. I also thought that the circus had no way of accessing the internet. It feels kind of rushed to just add that in at the last second. Like, would Kane not have figured that out in all of his time creating things before? It's also just a bit jarring that you can enter inside an abstracted person's mind and then just get pulled out like 15 minutes later and be totally fine. I feel like if this was true, Kinger definitely would have tried to talk to his wife one last time. The ending showing them the real life selves also seemed just a little off to me. If I was in their position and found out not only am I a copy, but hey, here's you. You're still kicking it and everyone is actually doing really good in life, even Jax. For one, it's a little unrealistic if you ask me, but that's the lesser issue. If I saw that, it would not make me feel more grounded or happy to be in the circus as it does for our characters. It didn't feel realistic and it felt more like an attempt at wrapping it all up, happy friendship is all that matters ending. I understand, again, the message of the show is just to keep on living and make the best with what you have, so it's not necessarily completely out of left field. It just could have been handled better, maybe with more discussion from our actual characters and not just a this is what you've done and cool, great. Also, before I wrap everything up, I had less of a criticism or theory and more of a question. When Jax was talking to Ribbit and he said that he told his mom a huge secret, was it that Jax is trans? That's what I got from the scene, and if you think about it, I feel it has been foreshadowed slightly by him wearing the maid dress from time to time, when Ribbit put the bow on him and he blushed, during his last montage and the song Isn't She Lovely plays, and probably a few more times. If that is the secret, it just confuses me a little bit because I feel most times Jax was put into the maid costume for comedic effect, and the only real time I can think of where it was meaningful was the bow. So if that wasn't the secret, I have no idea what was. If y'all have any ideas, please let me know. It probably sounds like I did despise the ending, but honestly, I had a really good time in the theater, and I thought it was very surreal to finally get an ending after so long. I think this is probably my least favorite episode, unfortunately, but I don't think that it ruins the whole show or anything, not at all. I just wish that we had more exploration into the characters that we ended with, and more conclusion without just reversing things that had happened episodes prior. But let me know what you think. Do you agree? Disagree?